cents is what you paid to eat there. And those old timers were stingy. They'd starve themselves to death till supper time, pay 50 cents, and eat like a bunch of hogs. And I did too, I guess.
Call it delayed gratification.
Yeah. But 50 cents for a meal and 50 cents for a bed.
So,
if you had $1 when you got to Oklahoma, you had it made. Man, I've gone to Cairo on a passenger run, be flat broke, and walk around, and it's Charles Vineyard, no, run a florist here. Charles, I can't think of his name, but his father run a soup kitchen and a pool room at Cairo. And you could get a bowl of bean soup and crackers for a dime. And but I walked by restaurants there in Cairo and didn't have enough money to eat. People eating.
but you would go there and get a bowl of
Get a
bean
bowl
soup
of soup.
for 10 cents.
Eat about 3 bowls of bean soup all day long,
Uh-huh.
different times.
It has its nutritional value.
Cairo back then was like little Las Vegas, man.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
They had steamboat gambling, or?
Well, no, it was right there on the street. I know the Tariff Club and there's one, I can see it right now, but the whole wall was lined with slot machines all the way around. And most of them were silver dollar slot machines. People carried a pocket full of silver dollars back then.
Wow. But
We used to have an old conductor. I'd go with him, watch him play. Fred Smitty.
Uh-huh.
I drove by where he lived here the other day. It's not far from the old Union Station. House is all run down. They had a nice brick home, but he always liked me, and if I was flagging for him, he'd wake me up and say, "Come on, kid," and go with me down to we'll play the slots a little bit.
Would he ever give you money to play with?
Oh, no.
So you were just going to watch him.
Money was scarce then.
Yeah.
Everybody pinched a penny then, man. You see pennies laying around on the street and people walk by them there. Nobody but walk by a penny then. But you can see what become of $1 now. $1's not worth anything now.
Let me ask about your dad. He was. Is that all he did for his life during his life was work for the GM&O?
No, my grandmother, his mother, died when she was about 30 years old with breast cancer. And my granddaddy, about a year later, married an old maid school teacher. And that's when he and his brother and sister all left home. They couldn't get along with her. And his mother used to talk about Uncle Orville, was a police officer in Memphis. And he went over and lived with him about a year and worked on a streetcar. He's a streetcar conductor or something. And lived with his uncle. But my mother lived right across the field from his home place. And of course, they were in love from childhood, from 6, 7 years old when they started school together. So he came back to Dyer, and he had enough money. He had bought a buggy and all, a horse, and he worked for his dad a little while on the farm. His dad had a steam-operated wheat thresher, and he was pretty well-off farmer, dealt selling mules and horses and wheat thresh for other people. But anyway, Dad didn't like that. He always wanted the railroad, so he sold his buggy and horse. He had to have a watch. And he learned telegraphy there at Dyer under a fellow by the name of Overall, who was an agent, operated Dyer, and established his seniority and went to work.
Did you say telegraphy?
Telegraphy.
Oh, telegraph.
Yeah.
Telegraphy. Okay. All right. And you still have that, and I'm going to get some footage of it before I leave.
Yeah. But
So he.
well, I wish I had it. He had what they call a bug. See, all train orders, everything was dot and dash, and he did it so much. This bug is not. That's tap over there on my desk, but it was called a bug. It do it like this.
You could shake it
real fast, and but he couldn't. Well, he worked just about every place. My brother was born in Union City. He was a third trick operator in Union City when my brother was born. They moved from there then to South Columbus, where I told you my brother was a year old and had diphtheria, and that's the first I remember living. And then they moved from there to Reeves. He was third trick operator at Reeves. We lived in the little town of Reeves there for a while. And at one time or the other, he was agent operator at Finger. And I know at the age of about 2 years old, we were at Selmer. He was operator at Selmer. And he worked at Perry Switch out here for a good while and rode a speeder that you pump up and down. He'd walk from where they lived on Preston Street to Island, and he'd get on the speeder and pump it and go out to Perry Switch.
What was at Perry Switch?
Well, all it was operators around the clock, 3 of them. And that's where the IC and the GM&O come together. And they ran so many trains, they all had to have clearance when they had to have train orders.
So there was a building out there that somebody operated the switch?
Yeah, and there was 2 houses out there. We lived in one of those houses at one time.
Okay. Oh, well, that's gone now, right? Wasn't it was.
I think there's some houses out there that the old operator's shack's gone.
And it was double track through there, right? I seen. It seems like I know there is a Norfolk Southern track, the West Tennessee.
No,
Railroad.
It was single track, but there's a passing track out there.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, where they could meet trains.
Oh, and this is what this person did. They made it so that the trains could pass each other.
Yeah, they would line the switch for them to either go to the Island shop or either come around to Frogmore.
Okay, so if it was an IC train, Frogmore, GM&O, Island.
Yeah, he'd line it.
So that way they didn't have to stop, really.
Yeah, give them a clear block. Or if a train would maybe waiting for another train there, as soon as it cleared, he could go. They would throw the switches for him. And they'd give them train orders. You get a train order, and you had to have time to pass that.
But the GM&O maintained that switch. Did the IC contribute to it at all, or?
Yeah, but the IC. Now see, the IC on track from Wintford Junction, Kentucky. That's just this side of Wintford, Kentucky, to the Cairo River Bridge. There was double track, and they on one track and we on one track, but they always worked together with the GM&O. I mean, they swapped out and whatever, cost-wise. They finally, we used to, back in steam engine days, the Ohio River was eating out our track was next to the river, and we'd run a rock train every morning. Crews was first in, first out there at Townsville North would catch a rock train, and you'd have about 7 or 8 low side rock, or these big rock boulders. I don't know where they come from.
I think they call them riffraff now, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no telling how many. We'd come there and stop, and the section men would get on there and roll those rocks where that current was coming in there.
Trying to stop it from eroding.
Yeah.
Did it ever work?
Huh?
Did it work?
For a while, they finally had to give it up. Closed that track.
Wow.
And made a crossover just north of Mile Bridge between Wycliffe and the big
Move the track in.
Well, they single tracked it there.
Okay.
Through Wycliffe and around the river.
Do you think you got into railroading because your dad encouraged you to, or did you have a love for it when you were little?
Well, that's all I ever knew. Just loved railroading. But as a kid, when they were switching around Saltella, I'd get on the steam engine and ride with them.
That while they were making trains up and stuff?
But yeah, that's all the whole family knew was railroading. That's all we thought about doing or wanting to do.
Is that what your brother did?
No. When he had diphtheria, it left him crippled up.
Okay.
He finished high school and went through all the chairs in Masonic order, was worshipful master, and they even drafted him into the Army and kept him for about 6 months and let him out. But he was slow coordinated. I mean, the doctor said that one side of his brain cell was paralyzed. If you or I were to touch a red hot stove, how quickly he was slow. And he couldn't do anything like that. But he could drive a car, and he worked in the box factory. The Ewells at Dyer were good friends of family, and they give him a job. And he worked for a little newspaper there in Dyer too one time.
He was just a year older than you, right?
Yeah, younger.
Younger than you. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
5 years younger.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
5 years younger.
But did you have a sister?
Yeah, 2 sisters were older than me.
Uh-huh.
My oldest sister was 10 years older than me, and then my other sister was 7 years older.
What were their names?
Madge and Margie. And Margie worked for the railroad. She went to work when my dad left Saltella. She took over it was a non-telegraph agency. And for several years, she worked that agency and established her seniority. And she worked on until after the merger with the IC in '72. And she wound up at Humboldt. She was an operator and agent there at Humboldt when she retired.
Both of them have passed on?
Oh, yeah. All my family's dead.
And your younger brother, you said he passed away in the 80s, I think? Or 70s?
94.
94, okay.
Yeah.
Your mother. That's her up there, right?
Yeah. It's Sarah, Virginia.
What do you remember best about her?
Well, she was so good to her family. She's always a real hard worker. And my dad, the last 20 years of his working, she would take him to work and pick him up at his work. She drove. And she always had a big garden, milk cow. She went to a clothing store there, Mr. Bone in Dyer, to get me a shirt for my birthday.